Welcome to the weekly Postmedia panel on the Ottawa Senators. With me, Don Brennan, Bruce Garriock, myself, Ken Warren. We're going to delve into some meat of what's happening with the Ottawa Senators here. And guys, the place we have to start with, of course, is Erik Karlsson is gone. The captain is no longer with his organization. What do we think about this move by the Ottawa Senators?
Well, I look at it and I think that this decision to move Erik Karlsson was made a long time ago, and the organization clearly decided that they were going into a rebuild. They felt after discussions with Karlsson that he didn't want to be part of it, and Don, I guess they decided that both sides decided essentially that they wanted to move on. That doesn't mean this is a popular move. That doesn't mean that anybody feels that they won this trade, and the only way they can win this trade is if they do a good job with those draft picks down the road. But obviously, people knew this was coming, Don, but you still got a fan base that's in a total state of shock.
Yeah, I would like to know if we ever could find out if Erik Karlsson would have stayed had he received the offer that he thought was fair. And money aside, I think there's other parts of a contract offer that have to be considered. I don't think he got what he wanted. Now, you're right, nobody's really considering the hockey trade of it because we don't really know. I mean, we know Chris Tierney, but we don't really know any other parts of it. So hockey trade-wise, it could work out for the Senators someday, but people in Ottawa don't want any part of that right now because they're devastated. They lost their superstar.
And there is a pattern here, right? It's stars in Ottawa don't stay. Now, what's behind it? I mean, a lot of people have a lot to say about the upper, about General Manager Pierre Dorion's work, but also how Eugene Melnyk as the owner plays into this, and that's where a lot of the fan base outrage comes from. You guys touched on it here. What can we expect from the rebuild? How long is this going to take? Who are these guys?
Well, I mean, that's anybody's guess, and who knows what Chris Tierney and Dylan DeMello are, and what kind of immediate impact they can make. Everybody you talk to about DeMello says he's a 5 or 6 defenseman. Chris Tierney is obviously going to have a great opportunity as a second-line center with this team because they've lost Jean-Gabriel Pageau essentially likely for the year unless he gets back sometime in March. The other pieces to the puzzle, who knows? Josh Norris is still in school. Balsers, I don't know at all. And the draft picks, those are to be determined. Obviously, there's a lot of futures in this deal. I think what people need to see, Don, is some sort of direction or some sort of roadmap on how all this is going to go.
What kind of team the Ottawa Senators will be this season is, if you just look at it, everybody's guessing 30th place, 31st place. They're right off. And the fact of the matter is, in the NHL, you just don't know. You need some good pieces, and they do have some good pieces, but you just don't. You watched Colorado last year. Where did the rise of the Colorado Avalanche? It's going to depend, as far as I'm concerned, on the goaltending. We don't know all the rest of the prospects, but the goaltending is going to be the key. Is Craig Anderson going to be Craig Anderson of last year or the year before?
If their goaltending is phenomenal, I think they have a chance to be relatively competitive. That's the way I'm going to say it, because that defense right now, the way it looks, is really rough. But, I look at the group of forwards they have now, the young forwards. There's going to be some hope from these guys. Brady Tkachuk, Alex Formenton, Drake Batherson, whether they all play right away, I don't know. There is some talent there, but again, are they going to be, are they going to be rushed too soon? And that's a challenge for these guys.
Well, and that is going to require a lot of leadership, and a lot of this is going to fall on the shoulders of Matt Duchene and Mark Stone, right? And where are they going to go with those two guys? And are they going to be able to get long-term contracts done with these two? Because now that's going to become the focus the rest of the way as part of this rebuild goes. And what are you going to surround? You're right. You talk about a lot of great young talent, Ken. But are they going to be able to keep those older players who they expect to be part of the core to surround this young talent properly? And that's the real question.
Well, you mentioned it before, like the guys that have left have reached stardom in Ottawa and then they've moved on. So you get people all excited, and that's what's going to bring fans back this year. I don't know how many. I think that there's a lot that are going to stay away because they're so upset with the Karlsson trade. But I think that a lot of people will buy into the hope and the excitement and the speed and the youth and all that. But you do need a couple of pieces, and a couple of veterans. And I think they desperately need a guy like Matt Duchene or Mark Stone to commit. And right now, I don't know if either one of them wants to.
I agree with you, because I think, fans are sitting there going, well, what's the substance? We can see maybe some future here. But again, it's the star syndrome, right? Are you going to keep these stars? And what's going to convince Mark Stone and Matt Duchene to stay? We've seen early on in camp that they seem to try to line Brady Tkachuk with Mark Stone, as a mentor situation. Is Mark Stone willing to stay? And are they willing to do what it takes to keep him here? Let's lead. This leads to a further question about Mark Stone, Matt Duchene in the dressing room, which clearly was a mess last year. Are they going to be a big part of cleaning this up?
Well, one of the things they've talked about is the fact that they're not going to have a captain to start the season, and perhaps not have a captain at all this season, which would be the first time in franchise history that this team has not had a captain or somebody wearing the C on opening night. I look at this situation right now and I think, okay, if you're not going to have a captain, are you waiting to see what Matt Duchene and Mark Stone do in it? Because both of those guys are obvious candidates to be your captain full time, and a lot of people felt, I think present company included, that the minute they traded Karlsson, they were just going to slap the C on Stone's jersey and just move on. But they didn't do that, and I think that took some of us by surprise. But I really think that sometimes the media gets too caught up in a captain, but I'm surprised they're not naming one here.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the whole part of the issue. I mean, they need to know whether Mark Stone or Matt Duchene is going to be here. Right now, you don't, so I'm not surprised they're not going to name a captain, although I wouldn't mind seeing them throw the C on Mark Borowiecki. I mean, he's a guy that's a respected guy in that dressing room. I don't care how many minutes you play. I don't care how many goals you score. That's got nothing to do with it. They need a strong individual in that locker room to be the next captain, and I think he fits that bill.
I think he's going to get an A. I really do. But, the question is, I look at this as 1 year they did after Daniel Alfredson, and nobody could replace Daniel Alfredson and what he did in that room. They gave it to Jason Spezza for a year, and he walked away. More of this politics. So I don't think they want to get in an environment where a guy's captain for a year and then all of a sudden they have to start over again.
There's been a lot of discussion, right, that if either of those guys commits long term, then one of them will be the captain, or maybe there's some combination of both of them.
Yeah, that's going to be a real intriguing dynamic on how that room works and to try to clean it up from last year. Yeah, guys, I guess we can wrap up here. I mean, we talked a little bit about it. What can we realistically expect from this team this season?
I think it goes back to what Don said earlier. A lot of it depends on goaltending, because if the goalies are as bad as they were last year, then this team doesn't have a hope. But if they get any kind of goaltending from Craig Anderson and Mike Condon, I don't know how they're going to be in their defensive zone when you've got to replace 30 minutes from Karlsson gone every night. But I really think, and the other thing I'm intrigued to see is the power play, because the power play was absolutely no good with Karlsson on it. It looks like Thomas Chabot is going to be the quarterback of this power play. How's that going to work out?
Yeah, I think that it could go either way. I mean, I'm not having any expectations. I don't think the Senators are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they have a real serious chance. But like you said, they can be competitive and have a shot with if everything falls into place. For me, the story of the year is looking around at the seats in Canadian Tire Center every night. No, I want to see how many people hold through with their promises to stay away from this team because they're so angry with Eugene Melnyk over the Erik Karlsson and every other part that's gone wrong in the last year.
And I agree with you on that, but I wonder if somehow a change in style, you've got a very defensive-minded coach we've seen for several years. Hey, do you let the kids go? Are you better off losing games 5-3 than 3-1, because then at least the fans sit there and go, well, hey, that Tkachuk scored or Formanton scored or whoever it is, and say maybe there's some hope here. I think that helps sell too, in the fact that maybe if it looks like there's excitement, they let's face it, they're in tough and selling tickets, so they got to find a way to bring fans back. Well, I think the one thing, guys, we can pretty much agree on as we wrap up here is it's going to be another entertaining season for the Senators, because we don't really know how this thing is going to play out in so many facets. Welcome to the first weekly panel. Take care.